The defense calls George Sawicki. Mr. Sawicki, do you know the defendant sitting at the table?
I've known Steve for 3 years. He's been in my film club.
Can you give us your opinion of Mr. Harmon's work?
I think he is an outstanding young man. He is talented, bright, and compassionate. He is very much involved with depicting his neighborhood and environment in a positive manner.
Do you consider him an honest young man?
Absolutely.
When he says he was taking mental notes for a film, would that be a film for your club?
Yes.
Nothing further.
You said you are a teacher in Mr. Harmon's school. Do you live in his neighborhood?
No, I do not.
So although you want to vouch for his character, isn't it fair to say that you do not know what he does when he goes to his neighborhood and you go home to yours?
No, it's not. His film footage shows me what he is seeing, and to a large extent, what he is thinking. And what he sees, the humanity of it, speaks a very deep character.
What was he doing on the afternoon of December 22nd? Did he show you a film of that day?
No, he did not.
Do you feel that the ability to make a film means that someone is honest?
It is my belief that to make an honest film, one has to be an honest person. I would say that. And I do believe in Steve's honesty.
As a matter of fact, you like him quite a bit, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Nothing further.
So what do we have? We have a man who admits to being part of a robbery accusing another man. The prosecutor believes that bringing Richard, Bobo Evans to testify was good, but the real reason that Mr. Evans came to testify was because he made a deal with the cops for a lesser sentence to testify and implicate someone else? That is the story, right? Does it even surprise anyone that Bobo, who has sold drugs, admitted to murder and sold items that he stole, who want to turn in someone else to get a lesser time or no time in jail? Did Mr. Evans do the shooting? I don't know, but naturally he says he didn't. He do it if he would have gone to the witness stand and admit to being guilty. He would not have the deal. He had to pick someone else to accuse, so he exactly did that. And he just so happened to pick Mr. King. The state picked a witness, by the name of Ms. Henry, who was at the store buying medicine for her granddaughter. Could she have made a mistake? Evidently she has. Not that she did not see someone in the store, but whom did she see? She was taken to the police station to look at photographs. From these photographs, at police urging, she picked Mr. King. Then she was to pick someone out of a lineup. What was she doing? Picking out who she saw at the drugstore or who the police gave to her in the photographs. But that is for you, the jury, to figure out. Mrs. Moore testified saying Mr. King was at her house at the time of the incident. Miss Henry seems like a law-abiding citizen, and I don't think she would lie while under oath, so when she said she saw 2 men in the drugstore, I believe that, but we already have 2 people who admitted that they were a part of this robbery and murder. There would be no reason to keep looking for other people who participated in the crime when we have a witness who saw 2 men and we have 2 men who have admitted they were guilty. If you believe, as I do, that their positions, their stated characters, so taint their testimony that everything they say is well within the area of reasonable doubt, then you have no choice but to find Mr. King not guilty. I believe that justice demands that you reject the testimony of these men consigning their stories to the area of deep doubt. I believe that justice demands that you return a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
The most important testimony, the reason we're here, is the medical examiner's statement that a murder was committed. Nowhere does his testimony say who killed him. That is for you to figure out, who killed the drugstore owner. The state does not say or even suggest that Steve was in the drugstore that day. It doesn't suggest that his was his gun that was used. When Steve went on the stand, he said that he saw Mr. Evans on the street in his neighborhood. Perhaps hundreds, possibly thousands. That doesn't make them guilty of a crime. The state says that Steve talked to King about basketball, but nothing about committing a murder. Think about that for a minute. Without a plan that says that Steve entered an agreement with the robbers, what would he be charged with? Talking about basketball in the streets of Harlem, does that now constitute a crime? Not in any law journal that I know about. She claimed to be in the drugstore when the crime started. Now if Steve was supposed to check out the store before they went in, he did a very poor lookout job. And do you remember the signal that Mr. Evans said he had received? He said that Stephen came out of the drugstore and didn't signal that anything was wrong. In other words, there was no signal. On another note, where was Steve when Bobo and King went to go eat? As far as we know, the only person that profited was Bobo. We know Bobo profited because he sold the stolen cigarettes. The only purpose Mr. Evans and Cruz serve in this trial is to testify against others. Here King goes around selling cigarettes that connect him with the crime. Did he think that was a clever move? Or is this a shallow, gullible man who doesn't think about very much? Going over my notes last night, I came over a questions. It's the prosecutor's job to bring all of the participants to justice. Miss Petroselli brought justice to who she believed to be involved in this crime. But why, if Steve Harmon is innocent, would Mr. Evans want to hurt him? That bothered me quite a bit. All Mr. Nesbitt was to King was a get over. And King is perfectly okay with letting Steve lying on the floor in a jail cell. All Steve is to King is another getaway. Is there reasonable doubt about Steve Harmon's guilt? I think that was established when Miss Henry didn't identify Steve as a man in the drugstore that day. It's up to you, the jury. I am asking you, on behalf of Steve, to closely look at all evidence. If you do, I am sure you will return a verdict of not guilty. And that would be the right thing to do. Thank you.
The defense wants you to go into this case thinking about the character of Zinzi, Bolden, Cruz, Evans. This crime isn't about that, it is about the night of December 22nd. I do not know what kind of man Mr. Nesbitt was, but he did not deserve to be killed and left on the floor while his killers snack on fast food. It is the contention of the state that no one has the right to deprive us of the precious gift of life. It is the contention of the state, and it is also the law of the land. We have 3 witnesses to the fact that James King was in the store on the 22nd of December, Mr. Evans, Mr. Cruz, and Miss Henry. Mr. Briggs' theory doesn't work. What does work is the state's theory of what happened, verified by all 3 of the witnesses. Mr. Harmon gave the all-clear signal, and Bobo Evans and James King went into the store to rob Mr. Nesbitt. When Mr. Nesbitt tried to defend himself, the gun was taken from him and he was shot by King, sitting there. The defendant suggests that Steve would have been a better lookout, but what if he didn't know what to expect because it was his first time, so he did a poor job? This was a botched robbery in which the perpetrators actually took very little money and few cartons of cigarettes. And oh yes, the life of a good man, Aguinaldo Nesbitt. The truth of the matter is that Bobo Evans, Mr. Cruz, Mr. King, and Mr. Harmon all participated in this crime. They are all equally guilty. Steve Harmon was part of the plan that caused the death of Aguinaldo Nesbitt. I can imagine himself trying to distance himself from the event. His death was caused by these men, and that's all I ask of you, to reach into your hearts and minds and bring forth that measure of justice.
Is everybody here? Is everybody here? Prosecution ready?
Ready.
Defense?
Ready.
Bring in the jury.
It is 5 months since the trial, and almost a year, minus a few days since the robbery in the drugstore. James King was sentenced 25 years to life. Osvaldo was arrested for stealing a car and sent to a reformatory